This is Binod Shankar and you're listening to the Real Finance Mentor podcast from therealfinancementor.com. The Real Finance Mentor is your go-to resource for insight and inspiration on careers in finance, CFA and more. I would think, why this podcast? Well, my goal is to deliver insight and inspiration for your finance career by making it, one, relatable. This is not theoretical stuff. We zero in on the critical, practical issues. Number two, authentic. No bullshit, no sidestepping. The topics, guests, and questions are all from that perspective. And number three, take a chartered accountant and CFA charter holder, add 17 plus years as a corporate warrior, mix in 10 years of entrepreneurship, throw in a decade of full-time CFA training, add speaking, mentoring, cycling, and mountaineering, and that's me. Welcome to the Real Finance Mentor, or as I call it, RFM. Right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Binod Shankar here with the Real Finance Mentor podcast, a podcast that brings insight and inspiration for your finance careers. And today we have a special guest. Now, this special guest is not from finance, although she has some connections with finance, she confesses, in her current job. And she's not doing any CFA or MBA or any such C-level certifications. But she's interesting for various reasons, as you would see as we proceed with the interview. So I would like to welcome for today's episode, Souad AlSerkal. Now, let me introduce Souad properly, right? With the proper titles and experience and credentials. Now, Souad is a Vice President Strategic Communications with Tabreed, also called the National Central Coaling Company, which is headquartered in the UAE as a listed company. He's also Executive Board Member of the Middle East Public Relations Association, MEPRA, and was acting head of corporate communications and head of PR at Abu Dhabi Media, before which she was corporate communications executive at Altair Group, and also before that she was media spokesperson, Sheikh Mohammed Center for Cultural Understanding. Education-wise, she has a bachelor's in communication and media sciences from Zayed University and a master's in science of international business administration from the Zayed University, Thunderbird University, Geneva. Right. Awards, she's got the most influential PR and communications professional award in the region by PR Week 2019 and 2020. Have I left out anything, Souad? Is there anything more to say?
I'm an amazing person. I'm very bubbly.
Anyway, so thank you for coming on the show.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, I have too many questions to ask you, but because of time, we have to obviously limit the number of questions. And we had a chat, obviously, several times before today. And apart from being bright, you also strike me as articulate, engaging, and open. And these three terms are not terms that I would associate with the Emiratis I know, most of whom, men and women, are super conservative and keep to themselves. Now, why is that? And is this changing fast enough in your opinion?
To be honest, this is one of the most asked questions I face when I speak to international professionals or just regular people from all around the world. And I will not deny that I'm not your typical Emirati, to be very honest. But the community is changing. It is extremely changing in regards to these three attributes that you just mentioned. Our upbringing, in fact, had a lot to do with who we are today, to be honest. And the way that the government is progressively shifting to what is, quote unquote, the norm is helping the people change. Me personally, I come from a very unconventional family. And when everyone thought that being in the media was is not too positive, basically, my parents saw something in me that I would say translated, yes, she's perfect for media. And they pushed me to who I am today. Right. They made sure that I know that I can be vibrant and still exercise my duties as an Emirati, which is extremely important in our community. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I need to come back to your childhood and your parents later, because I'm sure there are some insights that we can pull out from there. But when I first met you, actually we first met when I contacted you for the CFA Institute Investment Research Challenge, the UAE version 2021, which is actually a way of making university graduates employable. Now, of course, as you know, employability is a big issue, as many graduates enter the workplace without a clue of how to survive or get succeeding. I mean, we try to tackle this issue at CFA Institute by encouraging teams from universities to participate in a competition where they learn lots of useful skills like presentation and financial modeling. Now, you mentioned during our previous conversation your unique undergrad work experience. Tell me what you did and how that has helped you so far.
So, first of all, let's put it out there. I'm a workaholic. I love what I do, and I do it at the best that I can. You didn't want to go back to my childhood, but to be honest, I attribute this to my parents and the way they taught us. They basically taught us how to work for what we need, and we wanted an extra allowance. We had to do extra chores. We wanted to learn, apply it, and I believe that where my perspective working while studying came through was from that. And I have worked in newspapers, advertising agencies, production houses, media networks, all during my studies. I knocked every door every summer that I was available in the UAE for me to just do work placements and gain experience from that. But the thing is, I also have to thank my professors for being flexible with me when that was the case. I had my very first full-time job while I was a full-time student. My professors made sure that I excel at both ends and were very understanding when it came to my time. That consequently gave me my edge. Education is so important. It is essential. It gives you the credibility, but working is even more important to help you apply what you've learned and hence never forgetting it. Having programs such as this is crucial to the next generation. The world, the real world is not in your books. Okay, the real world uses what you've learned and tests your critical thinking in applying these methodologies. Students need to take advantage of these programs and of this one and other similar programs that are available in their fields. I know I abused every opportunity presented to me. I mean, if I sniffed an opportunity, I just jumped on it, and that's what I would advise people to do to kind of excel in what they're planning to do.
Right, that's what interesting take, because let's go to that last part what you said, right? What youngsters are
Yep.
planning to do, because as you know, Swat, many youngsters struggle to find the field that they like and that they're good at. In fact, even adults struggle, and some adults never even find what field they like and that they're good at. But you seem to have found what the Japanese called, and I'm sure you've heard this phrase called ikigai, right? Where passion, purpose, profession all intersect. You seem to enjoy your work, and you've had several interactions over the last several months. So, where did you first get the interest to work in the communications field? I mean, what drew you to communications?
As I said, I'm in love with my job. I adore what I do, and I thank God for giving me parents to allow me to explore my passion. And I want to go on record, to be honest, to thank three professors who literally lured me in to the communications world. Just a backstory. I'm fascinated with science, so I'm a huge fan of biology, physics, and chemistry. And my initial thoughts was to go into biology, but thanks to Professor James Pikeway, Jack Hilwig, and Stan Dura, they are the reason of why I am and who I am today.
Wow.
Stan saw the writer, James saw the passion, and Jack saw the creativity. As you mentioned, I'm a Zayed University graduate in the comms college. And before you pick your college, you get into a general education program. And at the end of the program, you start getting introduced to different colleges. James Pikeway and Jack Hilwig walked into the hall to introduce the communication to the song "We Will Rock You" in the background, literally clapping their hands over their heads and singing that song. And all I did, I'm like, okay, rock my world. Like, tell me, show me how is it going to be rocked? And they completely astonished me. Their confidence on stage and the way they introduced the media world made me think, you know what? I want that. I want to be influential. I want to make a difference. And here I am today.
It's interesting you talk about your three professors, right? James, Jack Helwig, and Stan Dura. Because if you think about lots of leaders or successful professionals out there, and you ask them who made the biggest impact on your life, they might mention parents, but I'm fairly certain they will mention their school teachers or college professors. It's interesting, isn't it? The impact that these people have on your life.
It for me, I think it comes from the fact that I value credibility, giving credit to where it's worth, and I've taken upon myself the duty, I say, and it's a duty to be honest with my feelings, whether was it positive or negative, and being grateful for these three people is essential to me and essential to anyone listening that remember who had a hand in kind of sculpting who you are. Give them that recognition, and believe me, the repercussions of that are great and amazing, in my humble opinion.
Are you still in touch with these professors, by the way?
Of course, whenever I go to the US, I contact, because Stan have moved there,
Right.
and I went and saw him, and I remember that I met his wife before they got married when I was still in university, and now they have two beautiful children. I met them as well. So no, I do stay in touch as far as I can, and I'm forever grateful.
Incredible and also very inspirational. Now, your answers reveal, Suad, that you're an outlier. And we talked about, before this record, we talked about another way in which you're an outlier, which we should not talk about now. Uh, but why this is quite normal, as in being an outlier in the Western world, of course.
Yeah.
I've heard of very few expats, forget Emiratis, in the UAE, who work while at college. And I suspect, I might be a bit biased here. I suspect they don't work mainly because, I mean, their lifestyle is taken care of by their well-off parents who meet all their expenses. Uh,
Mhm.
so for you to be an outlier, to go and work so early on while you are at college, there must have been some triggers in your case, perhaps in school and or childhood. Can you share some details about this?
As I mentioned, it's my parents. My parents taught us
Mm,
that we need to earn our money. We need to earn our keep, because that kind of consequently made us value money, um, uh, and, um, and it's for it being available to us. You know what I mean? So based on that, the concept of earning one's keep was embedded into our DNA. I I don't understand how someone can take an allowance at an age where they can actually start knocking doors and getting
mm.
jobs. I remember, this is a funny story, but I remember when I was a child, I wanted to buy something, and my father said that what he meant was go to your mom, get some chores, do something around the house, and get the money. What I did was I went downstairs into our building compound and opened a car wash
Oh, wow.
where I started washing cars and earning money. And my father flipped, God bless his heart. He's like, "What is wrong with you? What are you trying to do to the family's name?" But in my mind, I was doing right. He was very proud, but at the same time, he's like, "That's not what I meant." But
Mm.
he embraced that, and he understood that, you know what? No, this girl is gonna grow up to actually work for whatever she needs, which is important. Yep.
It's interesting because something similar happened to me when I was a child growing up in Nigeria, and I have a single
Yeah.
mom. And if I needed pocket money, she would say, "You either wash the car or clean the house." So
Yeah.
I would have to do one of those things. And so, although we joke about it now, but of course we realize the importance of those past events, right? So
Yes.
because it sort of builds in you the fact that money doesn't come easily, and you have to really
Yes.
work hard to earn that extra rupee or naira or dollar or dirham, and
Exactly.
that's quite important. Now let's talk about something very critical, which is mental health, right? It's such
Yeah.
an important issue. I read recently that the rate of depression and suicide um, and loneliness among the younger generation has been steadily increasing. It actually worsened with COVID because, of course, social distancing has had a huge
Mhm.
adverse impact. Now, you mentioned to me that your battles with depression in school, a very bold and open move, by the way, and thanks for opening up.
Of course.
Appreciate that. But millions of people, Suad, are fighting this daily around the world. And how did you win this battle? Who helped you? So, can you please tell us more details about this?
Of course. So I am extremely open about my battle with depression. It is still there, but very, very much under control because of one thing. I decided I will not let it destroy me. Depression is a very real illness, and I do not believe in fixing it by taking a pill. It is by genuinely dealing with the issues that create those dark voices in your heads. The one piece of advice I can give is identifying the source of negativity in your life and literally eliminating it. So, in my case, I made sure that I surround myself with positive people who push me to be the best at what I am. If it's a family member who's negative, limit your interactions. Don't cut them off. because well, to me, I look at life from a religious perspective. It does go against our religion to cut off family, but limit them in your life, limit their interactions with you. If it was a friend, cut them off. You do not have time to cater to others. The negativity in you is a reflection of the environment that you are in. I want to take a moment, because you mentioned who helped me. I want to take a moment to thank my biology teacher back in school, Mr. Nidal, who took it upon himself to have lunch with me every single day and check up on me on daily basis when he realized that I'm a kid suffering from depression.
Wow.
Which brings me to my next point, which is, if you see someone suffering, be there. Lend them a helping hand. Most of the time, a person who is in depression will either not admit that he or she is there, or are way too afraid to ask for help. I was completely blessed with people around me who saw me, parents who embraced me, and a mind that was strong enough to deal with the with my complexity. Today, as part of my association with the MEPRA, as being a board member, we have created a wellness program that is free of charge for people to come and use and speak to professionals on depression and loneliness. So by all means, please do go to mepra.org and utilize that platform. It's free of charge. It's available to all, and it assists you if you have issues with finding the right person to speak. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks for opening up, Souad. And that's a fantastic initiative, by the way, the MEPRA connection. I'm sure, I hope people will reach out, and hopefully they will get their problems sorted out. I think it's a long journey. It doesn't get, it won't go overnight, but I think you got to work at it, and you need support
I've
as well.
definitely. I mean, I've been suffering with depression since, I believe, 2001, if I want to put a date on it. So, and I do remember, which is very hard for anyone to believe today, but I went without smiling for a year.
Wow.
For a full year, I was wearing black on black continuously. I never smiled, and I was always distant from everyone. So, it was a hard time, but I was very lucky to have the people around me.
Now, talking about smiling, I find it very difficult to believe that, because I watched your TEDx talk from, when was that? 2012, about
Yeah,
8 years ago,
yeah, yeah.
when you just waltzed onto stage, and you held the stage fluently and confidently and with humor. You are obviously now quite confident and articulate, engaging in private and public. But you said you were not always like this, and most people, as you know, struggle in public speaking. I mean, I used to teach a lot, and I couldn't even get my students to open up in a class where we are talking about something important for them. So, how do you go from shy schoolgirl with depression issues to engaging platform speaker? I mean, I also saw that on LinkedIn recently you mentioned about the 3 P's of public speaking, which is persistence, preparation, and practice. So, how do you advise someone who's a youngster, a fresh graduate probably, or even a young professional at work, who is hesitant to stand up in a meeting room and talk to his colleagues or in front of strangers and deliver a short talk? How do they get over this?
Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit. Okay, backstory. So I'm a
Okay.
certified trainer, and my specialty is public speaking.
Right.
And I train people about how to get over the butterflies. I'm here to tell you a couple of things. First of all, we're not afraid of speaking because we do it on a regular basis. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of people in front of us rejecting what we have to say. Because let me put it in layman terms. Let's say you're back in college, back in the good old days, you see a beautiful young lady and you want to go ask her out on a date. You walk up to her and you be like, my name is Binud. I think you're gorgeous. I would love to take you out for coffee. And she looks at you top to bottom. She says, no, and walks away. That pain is the pain of rejection. So imagine that pain in front of 300 people in an auditorium. That is equivalent to dying. And they say the fear of public speaking, or the fear of that rejection, is actually higher than death itself, the fear of death itself. So it's not a negative connotation, but it's what you do with that anxiety makes all the difference. To go back to that, so every public speaker has the butterflies. Believe me. It's the emotions, it's what you do with these butterflies is what makes you stand out. In my case, comedy is my escape. I make use of any situation and turn the tables, making it a funny moment to break my own ice, basically. I then shift the focus of how nervous I am at that moment to what I need to make sure that my audience needs to know. And if you mess up on stage, so what? It doesn't matter. You are still stronger than most by actually being on that stage. So this is where persistence kicks in. You need to go at it again and again and again. I did mess up a number of times on stages. Nothing major, but I did. I laugh it off and I continue. And when I took it easy, the audience laughed with me, not at me. And I just continue. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I had to perform a play in front of an entire summer camp. I was part of the ADMAC summer camp. My father used to work there, and executives were there to watch us. I was absolutely petrified. I was supposed to perform the opening monologue, and I just completely froze. I stood there in front of everyone, an auditorium filled with people, and nothing came out of my mouth. I
Wow.
almost fell apart and completely wanted to run off the stage. And I looked at my dad, and he smiles and he gives me a thumbs up that I'm doing great. I didn't even say a word. I looked at the rest of the crowd, and everyone was staring at me. And at that moment, I just closed my eyes. I calmed myself, smiled at my father, and then just completely continued reciting. And it was an amazing, amazing play. And I was 10 at that time. Afterwards, my parents, like, ran up to me, they hugged me, and made it seem like I should be nominated to the Oscars because of my performance. And that's the kind of reinforcements you need to have around you. Now, in
Correct.
regards to preparation and practice, I have an equation that I follow. It's 1 hour per 1 minute of presentation time. Meaning, you have a 20-minute presentation, you need to dedicate 20 hours worth of preparation. What do you do when you prepare? You research, you redefine, you readjust, and then you finalize the information needed to present the 20 minutes worth. You may say, okay, Saad, we usually have like 30 minutes to an hour for a presentation. Yes, that is correct. But the 30 minutes to an hour is a combination of you speaking and Q&A. So eliminate the Q&A and the conversation time. You got your PPT time, and based on that allocated time, you need to prepare. And then finally, we go to the third P, which is practicing. So you have no idea the amount of times that I practice a speech. I train and I look at my speaking notes. I practically memorize it before going on stage. I mean, sure, when I speak, it seems like it's coming out of the heart or from my heart, but public speaking is an art and needs a lot of work. Okay, so true, some of us are more comfortable speaking in front of others, but believe me, it's an acquirable talent. I do not have any public speaking genes in my DNA, by the way. I completely work hard for it. And I work diligently to get to the place that I'm here. But it's just, remember, it is not fear of public speaking. It's the fear of rejection that cripples us.
I know the fear of humiliation in public in
Yep,
front of so many faces. I
very
must say
true.
that your dad deserves a prize. Give the man an Oscar, to be honest.
Both my mom and my dad, to be honest, they work very much hand in hand. Definitely.
Now, you said the first time we talked, Swat, that you would love the lockdown because you were, to quote you, essentially an introvert. Something that people, and to be quite frank, I myself find very difficult to believe. But let's go with that. Now, as someone, as someone whose natural preference or nature is introversion, how do you get the motivation and the ability to, for lack of a better word, stretch yourself to be so engaging when you deal with seniors, juniors, different departments, vendors, the media, Binod Shankar, podcast interviews, etc., etc.
so, so I do love and I always call myself the introverted extrovert. Okay, and public speaking was my Everest, and I stress that was. But oh God, do I love a challenge? And I can tell a story. I know I can. I have the skill, so why not do it? What's the worst that can happen? Nothing. So I I thank, like, again, I go back to the support system that kept reassuring me that I have something great to share. So I need to do it. It's, if you notice, I stress again and again and again about the surrounding, the environment that you set yourself in. And for me, growing up, I've changed my surroundings to today that I make sure everyone around me is an overachiever. I create that healthy competition around me, that they love seeing me excel as much as I love seeing them excel. And that kind of puts me into that place where, yes, you know what, a challenge, I'll take it. I'll do it. I'll be the best at what I do, and show off doing it.
Now, while you were talking, I was thinking, and I've thought about this before as well, even before today, is that you're so fluent in of course, in the English language, so confident, so engaging. Now, which is, of course, something that you don't see, whether expats or Emiratis. And I suspect that lack of fluency in English is one reason why public speaking becomes such a huge Everest to climb, because
Hmm.
they fear that they'll say something wrong or grammatically or otherwise. Now, how did you get good or very good at the language? And more importantly, if someone is in their 20s and struggling to sort of engage with their peers, colleagues, bosses at work, mainly because of language issues, as because English is not our native language, what would you
Yes.
suggest? How can they upskill themselves? Because it's a major issue, I've noticed, both here as well as in South Asia.
Yeah. So it is practice, practice, practice. Be confident enough to go speak to a foreigner and speak to a native English speaking foreigner. Um, and I'm here to tell you, you made a mistake grammatically. So what? And a lot of people kind of ask themselves, oh my God, what if I make a mistake? And my question is always, what if you did? What's the worst that can happen? So what if you did? First of all, kudos on you trying. That you need to give yourself that badge of honor, that you are actually actively trying to speak a different language. Not everyone, by the way, speaks two languages. It's not a common thing, FYI. But kudos on you for trying to speak two different languages. That's number one. Number two, how in the world are you going to learn if you don't have someone correct you? All right. Number three, if you are in front of people who make fun of your mistakes, eliminate them. I take it upon myself to actually constructively correct anyone who speaks in front of me and uses like bad grammar or uses the wrong word, and constructively give them that advice, or correct them, whatnot. But if you are speaking and someone makes fun of you, eliminate them. You don't need them. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life at all. Don't stop speaking. Practice. Surround yourself with native speakers. Go online, recite, read, 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 read. I took it upon myself to read. At some point, I remember I couldn't go out. I was very, very sick. Um, this is something that also I'm very public about. So I'm a cancer survivor, and during my medication, I at some point I couldn't really go out. I couldn't do anything, and I used to read a book a day, because I had nothing else to do. So read books, fiction, nonfiction, business books, whatever you get your hands on, the newspaper every single day. Read that. Look at the language. Practice that language, and move forward. And to be honest, I don't talk about only Arabs who are speaking English. If you are an English speaker and you're trying to speak Arabic, do not let anyone make you feel less because you're speaking traditional Arabic or classical Arabic or whatever the case was. Kudos on you for trying to speak a different language.
Yes, I mean, I read somewhere recently that if someone is struggling to speak English, remember he knows a second language that you probably don't.
Exactly. Very, very true. Very true.
Now, talking about advice, right? And very
Sure.
importantly, if a young undergraduate approaches you for advice on career, what are the three top tips based on although you're young, you've gone through a lot of experience in your life, based on your experience that you would give to that young undergraduate, uh, irrespective of gender or nationality?
Mhm. So I've kind of hovered over a couple of them. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna kind of specify them. There are
Mhm.
3 points that I would like to cover. The first one is always ask yourself, what if they don't? The second one is it always happens for a good reason. And the third one, do not fear the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So let's elaborate a little bit. So the first one about asking yourself, what if they don't? So again, I spoke about the fear of rejection. So I noticed that most fear rejection as an idea, and that's valid. But instead of setting up yourself for that, convince yourself that there's a positive possibility to every situation. So instead of asking yourself, what if they say no? Ask yourself, what if they say yes? It's all a matter of perspective. So that's number one. Number two, it always happens for a good reason. So I was taught that if Allah allowed us to see what He has in store for us in the future, we would drop to the floor thanking Him and never get up. Which means what? Everything that happens to us in the now is either preparing us for a brighter future or eliminating what we think is good for us to allow something even better into our lives. Which brings me to a story of mine. At one of my jobs, I was promised a promotion. I found out that my name was shortlisted and it was just a matter of time for me to get it. I was absolutely devastated that I knew because I knew I deserved that promotion and I worked so hard for it that I was taken out of it. And I said, you know what, there must be something better coming soon. It, I mean, I know that I was hoping for it, but whatever. My name was taken out. It's not a big deal. Something must be better. And truth be told, less than 6 months, I got a job somewhere else that was 3 grades higher than what I had, 3 times the salary that I had, and needed me to join immediately. So please note, if I got that promotion, my notice period would have been 3 months. And because I didn't get that promotion, my notice period was only 1 month. So and based because of my vacation accumulated, I could have reduced it to only 2 weeks. So if I got promoted, the opportunity of a lifetime would have gone away. So yes, it may seem like it is the end of the world at that moment, but remind yourself it is always for a good reason. Then finally, we are always afraid of things that we don't know. So the fear of the unknown. Cold feet before getting married, picking a new home, traveling to a new country, it is a completely normal reaction. But never fear it to the limit that you run away. Stand your ground, challenge yourself. And if you don't know how to proceed, surprise, ask. Don't hold yourself responsible for the information that you do not have. Empower yourself with the knowledge and the experience to move forward. So there's nothing scary. There's nothing scaring about not knowing something. Admit it to yourself. Allow yourself to understand that, and ask.
Exactly. Don't be shy of asking. That's the
Yeah,
important point.
definitely, definitely.
So I'm sure you've got quite a few personal projects going on the sidelines. So tell me what you have going on right now.
So at the moment, I'm heavily invested in training people on public speaking because I realize that's a very occurring issue with a lot of professionals. So I do that, and I'm very, very involved with MEPRA at the moment, and I work closely with the United Nations Environment Program and the Ministry of Climate Change on cooling projects and projects to help with the entire climate crisis and whatnot. I've always been into saving the planet, definitely, but I think right now is the right time for me to actively do something about it, given the position and where I work at. So these are some projects that I'm kind of investing my time into, to be very honest.
Very encouraging, very interesting, and very inspiring as well, if I may say so. As I said before several times as well, Suad. Unfortunately, I know you're busy. I can't, and the interview has to end at some point. So, and this is probably a good point to wrap up. Thank you so much, Suad, for taking the time to come today and for being open and for being honest and insightful. Because I think the need of the hour is for youngsters to be motivated and focused and not lose heart, and don't be shy and don't be afraid.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you. And I really do hope that whoever is listening, whether they're youngsters and they're just starting with their careers or actually mid-career, um, please find the passion in what you do, regardless of what it is. And if you don't find the drive, it's never too late to change. And it's never too late to start over. What do you have? What do you have to lose? Absolutely nothing. And the more passionate you are about what you do, the better it is to wake up in the morning. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. And that's a brilliant way to end this episode. Thank you so much, Souad AlSerkal, for coming to the interview, and wish you the best in your future career. And of course, we will be in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
This podcast was brought to you by The Real Finance Mentor. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope you found it insightful and inspirational. If you did enjoy this episode, please drop us a review and spread the word. And be sure to check out more exclusive content on therealfinancementor.com and my LinkedIn profile, which is Binod Shankar CFA. Let's keep in touch. Just add your name to the mailing list on therealfinancementor.com, and we'll tell you about new episodes, plus book reviews, upcoming events, and blogs. Till the next time, onwards and upwards.